All right, you're on it. Next one, employee satisfaction survey. Excellent. Okay, great feedback already coming in here. So we'll start. The idea of having an introduction, I mentioned it each time. It says question number 1, so presumably this is the beginning of a survey. Is it an anonymous survey? We have no idea. It looks weak, and I agree. The idea of giving very candid feedback in an employer-employee type situation, you have to build trust as early as possible in the beginning, early and often, we'll say. And this one is not doing it. Great. So here we have great feedback. Let me encapsulate a few of them here. That, is driving us crazy, 1 to 10. How satisfied are you? That's a big scale. 1 to 10 is a giant scale, and we don't really know what the labels are about either. 10 is this is the best thing that's ever happened to me. What is my work? Is it my work products, the things that I do, my growth? Satisfaction is a tricky one, especially with employee satisfaction. You want to get a little bit more detail in the question and also clarify by labeling at least the anchors or endpoints of that first one. In brief, number 2. Number 2 is horrible. Also in brief, we still have that 20 words, that character count of 100 characters, but we have a giant box. So oddly enough, and also there's no relationship between 1 and 2. It's not, oh, great, so happy to hear, what's going well, or sorry to hear. This is a little bit of a disconnect. There's not really a conversational flow here. So it is brief, but the box is too big for that many words. So there's a disconnect in the space and the expectations. When you start to look at number 3, 100%, this is why we ask, is this an anonymous survey or not? It's a hard question to ask, but it's a hard question to answer probably as well for many people. So they want to know, is my boss going to know what answer I gave here? And as soon as we look at 4, it's the exact opposite. The scale is flipped. We want to know, great point on number 3 as well, what are you going to do with this information? Are you going to follow up with me? Am I going to be put in timeout? It's a very scary question. So the phrasing of the questions themselves, but also you can see it looks like what's happening here is that 3 looks like the right answer is given first, like no, never. The same thing in number 4. How often does your supervisor provide feedback? All the time, right? So this is a tricky one here too. So great feedback we're getting in here too, not just the technical, but what are you going to do about this information? Is this useful? Now we get into this part about supervisor feedback. Then we say your boss and your manager. Be very careful in this area with changing the terms along the way. You're changing the scale, you're changing the terms. Is the boss, the manager, the supervisor, are they the same people? Very, very tricky. Especially for number 6, this is a mismatch. Someone has used the default like-dislike question type, and we don't know why they didn't change it, but it doesn't match. Would you recommend your manager? To what? to leave, to be successful, to be someone else's manager? So some pretty unclear expectations here as well too. Number 7, how could the company improve your experience? Finally, we do like the size. We like the character count. Wow, 1,000 characters. But again, it's that expectations. We've only given you a tiny little box to be able to give that. So for some reason, we've decided to put the text box before a satisfaction question. And I do 100% love a smiley rating scale, but it doesn't make sense at the end of this survey. When you look at it as a whole, how satisfied are you with your work? Explain. Randomly, are you leaving or not? Some stuff about your manager or boss or supervisor. And it's a little bit weird. Now, I agree the idea that having a rating scale that's about compensation specifically could be appropriate, but we get back to this point of what is the point of this survey at all? Are you trying to learn something? Are you trying to do something? Are you trying to just collect baseline information? Every single person who receives this survey is going to say, why do you want to know this? If I say, I'm satisfied with my compensation, will I not get a raise? Really important to know what we're actually going to do with this data along the way. So consistently pointing the scale, several of you presented that 100%. The right terms, does the text box size, shape, dimensions, character count, is that consistent with the purpose and with the others? Notice here we have explain your answer in brief. It's a giant box. And how could we do better? no, it's a tiny box. We could never do better. So we'll just give you a tiny box, a little bit of a weird one. Definitely a lot of questions here. Does the question order support understanding? Not really. And a big one that many of you have mentioned here is changing sort of the impact on the trust of that relationship. There better be a really great conversation that happens before this survey. Could be useful information, but the team who's participating needs to know how it's going to be used. So great notes along the way.